A 15-foot alien girl landed in front of a human and called him her lost husband. The crash. The morning mist clung to the valleys of the Pacific Northwest like a gentle embrace, and Marcus Reed preferred it that way. His research station sat nestled between towering evergreens and rolling hills, far from the chaos of the cities below. At 32, he had dedicated his life to understanding the delicate balance of plant ecosystems, finding solace in the quiet conversations he held with his botanical subjects. Marcus adjusted his worn flannel shirt and stepped outside his modest cabin, coffee mug in hand. The greenhouse beckoned in the distance, its glass panels catching the first rays of dawn. He had work to do. Several rare fern species needed attention, and the atmospheric readings from yesterday showed promising results for his oxygen generation experiments. The world changed in an instant. A streak of silver fire tore across the sky, moving faster than any aircraft he'd ever seen. The object seemed to struggle against Earth's atmosphere, leaving a trail of sparks and debris in its wake. Marcus dropped his mug as the craft, for it was clearly some kind of vessel, plummeted toward the forest beyond his station. The impact shook the ground beneath his feet. Trees splintered and crashed in the distance, and a column of dark smoke rose against the morning sky. Marcus's scientific mind warred with his survival instincts. Every rational thought told him to call the authorities, to stay safe. But curiosity won. He grabbed his emergency pack and headed toward the crash site, his heart pounding with each step. The forest felt different now, charged with an energy that made his skin tingle. As he pushed through the underbrush, following the path of destruction, he noticed something strange. The plants around the crash site weren't burned or damaged. Instead, they seemed more vibrant, their leaves a deeper green, their stems stronger. The clearing ahead revealed a sight that stopped Marcus in his tracks. The vessel was unlike anything human technology could produce, smooth, organic curves that seemed to pulse with a faint inner light. Steam rose from its surface, but not the acrid smoke of burning metal. This was different, almost sweet, like morning dew on flower petals. A section of the craft's hull suddenly shifted, flowing like liquid metal to create an opening. Marcus stumbled backward, his breath catching in his throat. This was first contact. This was the moment that would change everything. She emerged slowly, carefully, as if testing the strength of the ground beneath her. Marcus's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. She was enormous, nearly 15 feet tall, but moved, with an otherworldly grace that made her size seem natural rather than intimidating. Her skin held a subtle iridescent quality, shifting between pale gold and soft violet in the morning light. Long silver hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall of starlight. When she turned toward him, Marcus felt the world tilt on its axis. Her eyes were the color of deep space, not quite black, not quite blue, but filled with swirling points of light like distant stars. Those eyes found his across the clearing, and something impossible happened. Recognition flashed across her features, followed by an expression of such profound relief and joy that it took Marcus's breath away. She moved toward him with surprising delicacy, each step measured to avoid crushing the forest floor. When she reached him, she slowly lowered herself, kneeling so that their eyes were level. "Torin," she whispered. Her voice like music played on crystal chimes. "After 700 years of searching, I have found you." Marcus opened his mouth to speak, to tell her she was mistaken, that his name was Marcus, not Torin. But the words died in his throat as her hand, large enough to encompass his entire torso, reached out to gently touch his face. The moment her skin made contact with his, the world exploded into color and memory. Flashes of images cascaded through his mind. Alien skies painted in impossible hues, massive cities that floated among the clouds, and this woman, this beautiful, powerful being, laughing beside him as they walked through gardens filled with flowers that sang in harmony. But beneath the wonder lay tragedy, war, separation, and a promise made as stars died around them. "I don't understand," Marcus managed to say, his voice barely a whisper. "You will," she replied, her thumb tracing the line of his cheek with infinite tenderness. "Your soul remembers, even if your mind does not. I am Zara of the Vailari, and you are my beloved. Return to me at last." The forest around them seemed to hold its breath as two souls, separated by death and reincarnation, began their journey back to each other. Memories of stars. The abandoned ranger station had become an unlikely sanctuary. Marcus had helped Zara reach the old building, though helped was perhaps the wrong word. She moved with fluid grace despite her injuries, while he stumbled along beside her, his mind reeling from their first contact. The station's main room could barely accommodate her height, forcing her to remain seated on the floor, her back against the stone fireplace. "Your people," Marcus said, offering her a cup of water from the well outside. "Are they coming for you?" Zara accepted the tiny vessel carefully, her fingers dwarfing the ceramic mug. "Not immediately. My ship's beacon was damaged in the crash. They believe me dead." She paused, studying his face. "Perhaps that is for the best, until you remember who you truly are." "I'm Marcus Reed," he insisted, settling cross-legged before her. "I'm a botanist from Portland. I study plants and atmospheric composition. I've never been to space, I've never fought in any war, and I've certainly never been married to—" He gestured helplessly at her towering form. "To an alien?" Zara's laugh was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Oh, my dear Torin, you were never quite human, even in your original form. Your people, the Meridani, were our closest allies. We shared similar lifespans, similar values. The differences between us were—" She smiled softly. "Mostly physical." Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. "I don't remember any of this." "Memory returns gradually to the reborn," Zara explained, her voice taking on a teaching tone. "Among my people, it is believed that souls choose their vessels across lifetimes. Your essence found this human form, but traces of your true self remain." She leaned forward, her massive frame somehow managing to appear delicate. "Tell me, Marcus Reed, do you dream?" The question hit him like a physical blow. For as long as he could remember, his nights had been filled with impossible visions. Cities of light floating in space, battles fought with weapons that sang, and always, the sensation of being held by someone whose love transcended understanding. "You know I do," he whispered. "Then you begin to remember." Zara's hand moved toward him, stopping just short of touching. "May I share with you what we were?" Marcus nodded, unable to speak. This time, when her fingertips brushed his forehead, the transfer was gentler. Images flowed like a river rather than a flood. Torin and Zara walking through crystalline gardens, their hands entwined despite the difference in their sizes. Her people, the Vailari, were ancient guardians of the galaxy, while his, the Meridani, were scholars and healers. Their bonding had been celebrated across 7 star systems, a union that symbolized the alliance between their races. "We had 300 years together," Zara murmured, her voice thick with emotion. 300 years of peace, of love, of building something beautiful among the stars. "What happened?" Marcus asked, though part of him already knew. "The Devourers came from the void between galaxies. They consumed entire worlds, leaving nothing but emptiness behind. The Alliance fought them for decades, but—" Her voice broke, slightly. "They were too many, too hungry." Marcus saw it then. The final battle, Torin dying in Zara's arms as their flagship burned around them. The promise he'd made with his last breath. "I will find you again, beloved. In whatever form the stars allow, I will return to you." "I searched for 7 centuries," Zara continued. "My people entered the Great Sleep. preparing for the long journey to new worlds. But I could not rest. I felt you out there somewhere, among the distant stars. When your planet's signals reached the outer rim, I knew. I followed them here, to this small blue world, and found you tending gardens once again. Marcus stood abruptly, pacing to the window. The ordinary forest outside seemed alien now, as if he were seeing it through different eyes. This is impossible. I'm human. I have human parents, human memories, a human life. And yet, Zara said gently, you've always felt different, haven't you? As if you were meant for something more? The truth of it hit him like a physical weight. All his life he'd felt displaced, as if he were searching for something he couldn't name. His fascination with the stars, his need for solitude, his instinctive understanding of plant life. It all suddenly made sense. I need time, he said. Finally, we have time, Zara replied. My ship requires extensive repairs and She gestured to a long gash along her side that glowed with pale light. I need to heal as well. You're hurt. Marcus moved toward her instinctively, his hands reaching out before he stopped himself. I should help you. Your touch already does more than you know, Zara said softly. But yes, there are supplies in my ship that could aid the healing. Perhaps you could help me retrieve them. As they worked together over the following hours, Marcus began to notice things. The way Zara's presence made the plants around the station grow faster, more vibrant. The way she hummed unconsciously while working, melodies that seemed to resonate in his bones. The careful way she moved around him, as if he were made of the most precious glass, and most unsettling of all, the way he found himself matching her rhythms, anticipating her needs, moving in harmony with her, as if they'd done this dance 1,000 times before. That night, as Zara rested by the fireplace and Marcus lay on the old ranger's cot, the dreams came stronger than ever. But now they weren't just visions. They were memories, sweet and terrible and achingly real. The Awakening. 3 days had passed since the crash, and Marcus found himself settling into a rhythm that felt both foreign and familiar. Each morning he would wake to find Zara already tending to the plants around the station, her massive form moving with surprising delicacy as she encouraged growth with gentle touches. Her injuries were healing rapidly, the glowing cuts sealing themselves with threads of silver light. Your body remembers what your mind has forgotten, she explained as they shared breakfast, berries and nuts from the forest for him, a shimmering liquid from her ship's stores for her. You always had a gift with growing things. Marcus watched her drink from a container that looked like liquid starlight. What is that? Distilled essence of my homeworld's primary star, Zara said matter-of-factly. My people photosynthesize to some degree. We can survive on solid food, but starlight sustains us better. She paused, studying his expression. You find this strange? Everything about this is strange, Marcus admitted. But also, he struggled for the word. Familiar, like I'm remembering a dream I had as a child. Zara set down her container and moved closer, her movements causing the floorboards to creak. The memories are stronger now, aren't they? They were. Each night brought more vivid dreams, more pieces of a life he'd never lived but somehow knew, intimately. He remembered the way Zara's laugh could light up an entire room, how she would curl around him protectively when they slept, the way their minds could touch across vast distances when they were apart. I remember loving you, Marcus said quietly. But I also remember being different. Taller, stronger, more than human. The Meridani were tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered like moonlight on water, Zara confirmed. But it was never your appearance that drew me to you, Torin. It was your heart, your boundless curiosity about life, your gentle strength. the way you could see beauty in the smallest flower or the grandest nebula. Her voice grew soft. Those things haven't changed. Marcus felt something shift inside him, like a door opening. In his mind. The sensation was overwhelming, memories, emotions, and knowledge flooding back in waves. He gasped, stumbling backward, and Zara was there instantly, her hands steadying him. "Easy," she murmured. "Let it come naturally. Don't fight it." But the returning memories brought pain as well as wonder. He remembered their last moments together, the agony of dying while knowing he was leaving her alone. The weight of 7 centuries of her grief crashed over him like a tsunami. "Zara," he whispered, and for the first time her name felt completely right on his lips. "My starlight, my beloved, I'm so sorry I left you." Her breath caught, and when he looked up, tears like liquid diamonds were streaming down her face. "You remember." "I remember everything." Marcus reached up to touch her cheek, marveling at how right it felt, despite the vast difference in their sizes. "I remember our first meeting at the Convergence of Worlds. I remember the way you challenged me to a debate about the ethics of terraforming, and how you let me win, even though we both knew you were right." Zara laughed through her tears. "You were so proud of yourself that day. I remember our bonding ceremony," Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger. "How the combined light of 7 suns blessed our union. I remember the gardens we planted on New Meridia, how we would spend hours talking about the future we wanted to build together. And I remember how you would sing to the seedlings," Zara added, her voice trembling with emotion. "You said they grew better with music. They did." Marcus felt a surge of knowledge, of abilities he'd forgotten he possessed. Without thinking, he began to hum a melody that seemed to come from his soul. Around them, the plants responded instantly, leaves unfurling, flowers blooming, growth accelerating at an impossible rate. Zara stared in wonder. "Your gifts are returning." "But I'm still human," Marcus said, confusion evident in his voice. "I can feel it. This body, this form. It's not what I was before." "Bodies are temporary vessels," Zara said, her hand cupping his face with infinite tenderness. "What matters is what lies beneath, your soul, your essence. That is what I bonded, with what I have searched for across the centuries." The truth of it resonated through every fiber of his being. He was both Marcus and Tauren, human and Meridani, mortal and something far greater. The paradox should have been impossible, but instead it felt like coming home. "I love you," he said, the words carrying the weight of 2 lifetimes. "I have always loved you, in every form, across every star." "And I love you," Zara replied, leaning down until their foreheads touched. "More than the light of 1,000 suns, more than the music of the spheres, more than existence itself." The kiss that followed was gentle and desperate, tender and passionate, a reunion of souls that had been apart for far too long. Despite their size difference, they fit together perfectly, as if the universe itself had designed them for each other. When they finally parted, Marcus saw something new in Zara's star-filled eyes, hope mixed with fear. "What is it?" he asked. "My people," she said softly. "If they discover I have bonded with a human, they will see it as a betrayal of our species. The Council of Elders believes humans are too primitive, too short-lived to be worthy of a Vailari's love." "Then we'll prove them wrong," Marcus said, with a conviction that surprised him. "Together." But even as he spoke the words, he felt a chill run down his spine. Somewhere in the distance, beyond the edge of hearing, he sensed something approaching, a presence that felt both familiar and threatening. Zara's head snapped up, her expression shifting to one of alarm. "They're coming," she whispered. "My people have found us." As if summoned by her words, The sky above them began to glow with an otherworldly light, and the sound of approaching ships filled the air. Their time of peace was over. The real test of their love was about to begin. Marcus took Zara's massive hand in both of his, feeling the warmth and strength of her beneath his palms. "Whatever happens," he said, "we face it together." "Together," she agreed, but her voice carried the weight of 7 centuries of loss and the terrible knowledge of what her people might do to keep them apart. Pursuit, the Vailari ships descended. Like falling stars, their crystalline hulls catching the afternoon sun and fracturing it into rainbow patterns across the forest canopy. Marcus counted at least 6 vessels, each one dwarfing Zara's damaged craft. They landed in a perfect hexagonal formation around the ranger station, their arrival so coordinated it felt like watching a military operation. "Stay behind me," Zara said, rising to her full height as the station's walls groaned around her. Her posture had changed completely. Gone was the gentle, vulnerable woman who had shared memories with him. In her place stood a warrior empress, radiating power and authority. "Zara, promise me," she interrupted, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in his bones. "Whatever they say, whatever they do, you must trust me." Before Marcus could respond, the air around them shimmered, and 3 figures materialized in the clearing. Like Zara, they were giants, but where she moved with fluid grace, these beings carried themselves with rigid formality. Their leader, a male with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that burned like white stars, stepped forward. "Zarathel Moonweaver," he intoned, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "You stand accused of dereliction of duty, abandonment of your post, and violation of the sacred compact. By order of the Elder Council, you will return with us to face judgment." Greeting lights. "To you as well, Canivore," Zara replied, her tone carefully neutral. "I see the Council's paranoia has reached new heights if they sent the War Prime himself to retrieve one damaged scout." Canivore's gaze shifted to Marcus, and the botanist felt like an insect being examined by a predator. "And this is the reason for your madness? This primitive creature?" "This," Zara said, moving protectively in front of Marcus, "is none of your concern." "Everything is my concern when it threatens the purity of our race." Canivore gestured, and the other 2 Vailari moved to flank them. "Did you truly think we would not discover your bonding rituals? The psychic resonance can be felt across star systems." Marcus felt his heart skip. Bonding rituals. They had shared kisses, touched minds, but he hadn't realized they were performing some kind of ceremony. "He is not what you think," Zara said carefully. "His soul carries the essence of lies." Canivore's voice cracked like thunder. "You would claim this short-lived mammal possesses the spark of a higher being? You disgrace the memory of the Meridani with such fantasies." "I am Meridani." The words left Marcus's lips before he could stop them, carrying a resonance and power that surprised everyone present. The forest around them fell silent, as if the very trees were holding their breath. Canivore's expression shifted from contempt to curiosity. "Impossible. The Meridani died with their worlds. We watched them burn." "Bodies die," Marcus said, stepping out from behind Zara despite her protective stance. "Souls endure. I am Torrendal, formerly of the House of 7 Moons, bonded partner to Zarathel, and I have returned as I promised I would." The War Prime studied him for a long moment, then laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Even if such reincarnation were possible, you are weak, fragile, pathetically short-lived. You would die of old age before a true bonding could be completed." "Then test me," Marcus challenged, feeling ancient memories of pride and honor stirring in his chest. "By the laws of your people, I have the right to prove my worth." Zara grabbed his arm. "Torin, no. The trials of worth are designed for beings of our stature and capabilities. A human body cannot what? Marcus looked up at her, seeing fear in those star-filled eyes. Cannot love you enough to risk everything? Cannot carry the soul of your bonded partner? Cannot prove that what we share transcends physical form? Canivor's smile was predatory. Very well, little creature. You invoke the ancient rites. But know this. Failure means death for both of you. The compact demands it. I accept, Marcus said before Zara could protest. The trial was simpler than he'd expected, and more terrifying than he could have imagined. A single test. Survive direct contact with a fragment of Vailari star core for 60 seconds. The crystalline shard pulsed with energy that could power a small city, its surface temperature hot enough to melt steel. This is madness, Zara whispered, as the other Vailari prepared the testing chamber within one of their ships. No human can withstand starfire. I'm not entirely human anymore, Marcus replied, though he wasn't entirely sure he believed it himself. The memories, the abilities that are returning, I can feel changes happening inside me. And if you're wrong, if this human form cannot channel what you once were. Marcus took her massive hand in both of his, feeling the familiar warmth and strength. Then I die knowing I tried to prove our love to the universe. That seems like a worthy end for any life. The testing chamber was a sphere of pure crystal, barely large enough to contain Marcus's human frame. As he stepped inside, the walls began to glow with contained stellar energy. At the chamber's center, suspended in a web of force fields, hung the star core fragment, a piece of crystallized sunlight that hurt to look at directly. Begin, Canivore commanded. Marcus reached for the fragment, and the moment his fingers made contact, fire raced through every nerve in his body. But beneath the pain, something else stirred. Recognition. This energy, this stellar fire, it was familiar. He had touched such power before, in another life, in another form. The seconds stretched like hours. His human body screamed in protest, cells breaking down and rebuilding themselves at an impossible rate. But his soul, his true self, began to resonate with the star core's frequency. Ancient genetic memories awakened, and for a moment, Marcus felt himself becoming something more than human, something closer to what he had once been. 58. 59. 60. When the test ended, Marcus collapsed to the chamber floor, his body smoking but alive. More than alive, transformed. His skin held a faint luminescence, his eyes reflected depths of starlight, and when he stood, he moved with a grace that defied his human limitations. Canivore stared in shocked silence. Impossible, one of the other Vailari whispered. Improbable, Marcus corrected, his voice carrying new harmonics. But not impossible. Love finds a way. But before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring from the Vailari ships. Emergency lights bathed the forest in pulsing red, and Canivore's expression shifted from amazement to grim determination. Devourers, he snarled. They've found us. The ancient enemy, thought defeated centuries ago, had followed the Vailari energy signatures to Earth. In the distance, Marcus could see tears opening in the sky itself, wounds in reality through which something hungry and vast was beginning to emerge. We must flee, Canivore commanded. All ships, prepare for immediate departure. No, Marcus said firmly. This is my world. These are my people. I won't abandon them. Then you will die with them, the War Prime replied. As will we all, if we remain. Zara looked between Marcus and her people, torn between duty and love, between survival and sacrifice. The choice that would determine not just their fate, but the fate of two worlds, hung in the balance. Among the stars, the Devourer ships emerged from the tiers in space like living nightmares, organic vessels that pulsed with malevolent hunger. their surfaces rippling with mouths that could swallow entire cities. Marcus counted dozens of them, with more appearing every second. "How many people live on this world?" Canivore demanded, his military training taking over. 8 billion, Marcus replied, watching the alien fleet spread across Earth's sky like a plague. The War Prime's expression grew grim. "We cannot evacuate them all. The logistics alone." "We don't abandon anyone," Marcus interrupted, feeling power flowing through his transformed body. "There has to be another way." "The boy is right," Zara said, her own warrior instincts awakening. "We didn't survive the last war by running. We survived by fighting together." Canivore studied them both, his ancient eyes calculating probabilities. "The human defense forces will last perhaps minutes against Devourer bioships. Your world lacks the technology to—" "But we don't lack the will," Marcus said. He turned to Zara, an impossible plan forming in his mind. "The star core fragment in the testing chamber. How much energy does it contain?" "Enough to power a battle cruiser for a year," she replied. "Why?" "Because Earth has something the Devourers have never encountered before. 8 billion minds capable of love, creativity, and stubborn hope. If we could amplify that psychic resonance using stellar energy," understanding dawned in Zara's star-filled eyes. "A planetary consciousness network. It's theoretically possible, but the risks of doing nothing are greater," Marcus said. He looked at Canivore. "Will your people help us?" The War Prime was silent for a long moment, watching as human military jets rose to engage the Devourer fleet. The aircraft were brave, but hopelessly outmatched, their missiles doing little more than annoying the bioships. "You would transform your entire species," Canivore said finally. "Link 8 billion minds in a network spanning your world. The process would change them forever." "Evolution isn't always gentle," Marcus replied, "but it's better than extinction." What followed was the most ambitious undertaking in human history. Using Vylari technology and Marcus's growing abilities as a bridge between species, they established psychic relay stations at key points around the globe. The star core fragment was split into smaller pieces, each one capable of amplifying human consciousness to cosmic scales. The transformation began in the cities, thousands of people suddenly finding their minds linked, their individual thoughts becoming part of something vast and beautiful. Fear gave way to wonder as humanity experienced true unity for the first time. Artists in Tokyo felt the inspiration of musicians in São Paulo. Scientists in Geneva shared insights with philosophers in Mumbai. Children in every corner of the world laughed together across impossible distances. "It's working," Zara breathed, monitoring the psychic emanations from the Vylari command ship. "The network is stabilizing." But the Devourers had noticed the change as well. Their bioships moved into attack formation, preparing to consume this new source of organized consciousness. "Here they come," Canivore warned. The battle that followed would be remembered in both human and Vylari history as the Convergence War. 8 billion human minds, linked and amplified by stellar energy, created weapons of pure thought and will. Imagination became reality as humanity's collective unconscious manifested defenses that had never existed. Shields of crystallized hope, weapons forged from determination, and most powerful of all, the simple, stubborn refusal to be destroyed. Marcus found himself at the center of it all, his transformed body serving as a conduit between human creativity and cosmic power. Through him, a child's drawing of a protective dragon became a mile-long creature of pure energy that devoured devourer ships. A poet's verse about unbreakable bonds created fields of force that nothing could penetrate. A grandmother's lullaby became a song that sent the ancient enemy fleeing back to the void between stars. When the last devourer ship vanished through a closing tear in space, Earth fell silent. 8 billion minds slowly disconnected from the network, returning to individual consciousness, but forever changed by the experience of true unity. "It's done," Zara said, her voice filled with amazement. "The threat is ended." But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had evolved in a single day, becoming something new. Not quite human, not quite alien, but uniquely themselves. They would need guidance, teachers, friends among the stars. "Will your people help us?" he asked Canivore. The War Prime looked out at the peaceful Earth sky, then at Marcus and Zara standing together, two beings who had proven that love could transcend any barrier. "I believe," he said slowly, "that you have much to teach us as well." 6 months later, Marcus stood in the observation deck of the first human-Vylari joint research station, orbiting Earth's moon. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see both his birth world and the vast expanse of stars beyond. Zara approached from behind, her footsteps no longer causing the deck to vibrate. The station had been built to accommodate beings of all sizes. "Any regrets?" she asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. Marcus leaned back against her, marveling at how perfectly they fit together despite their differences. His transformation had continued over the months, his body growing stronger and more resilient while remaining fundamentally human. He would never be as tall as a Vylari, but he no longer needed to be. Love, he had learned, wasn't about matching forms. It was about matching souls. "None," he said, watching as a human transport docked with a Vylari research vessel. "Though, I do miss my greenhouse sometimes." "Then we'll build you a new one," Zara said, her laughter like music in the recycled air. "The most beautiful garden in the galaxy, where flowers from 1,000 worlds can grow together." "Like us," Marcus said, turning in her arms to face her. "Like us," she agreed, and kissed him as the stars wheeled overhead, ancient and eternal and filled with infinite possibility. In the distance, Earth turned slowly in its orbit, no longer alone in the cosmos, but part of something greater. A growing alliance of worlds united not by conquest or fear, but by the simple truth that love, in all its forms, was the most powerful force in the universe. And somewhere in a small greenhouse on the lunar station, impossible flowers bloomed, roses from Earth growing beside star lilies from Vyalara, their roots intertwined, their blossoms reaching toward the same distant suns. The end.